Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Tick-tock. It's news o'clock. Holy smokes, Vatican vaporized. Guy Fawkes nabbed. Parliament party pooped. And door slams on doomsday in Canada. Plus, coming up, cat buys dog. Moggy miffed at Mutt Mayhem. Those are the headlines. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to wrestle a walrus.
My news bang. News delivered with the punch of a Tukey fall and the precision of a laser beam. 1943.
Breaking news from the Vatican, where 4 bombs have rocked the Holy City, causing more chaos than a papal conga line. The Vatican radio station, broadcaster of divine pronouncements and Gregorian chant remixes, was badly hit, forcing monks to shout the news from rooftops.
Local resident Giuseppe Benedetti. I was polishing my blessed bottle caps when, boom, the Pope's new Jesus mosaic went bye-bye.
The governator at Palace also took a direct hit, destroying the Vatican's collection of sacred whoopee cushions. "A tragedy," cried one cardinal. "Those cushions were blessed by 3 popes."
Both the Allies and the Axis deny responsibility, claiming their bombs are far too sophisticated for such targets. Meanwhile, the Swiss Guard responded with some colourful Latin curses.
Is it in 1605?
Election day pandemonium. Millions of Americans accidentally voted for their pets thanks to catnip and bacon grease-coated ballots.
In Ohio, Chairman Wow, a golden retriever, leads the Senate race after eating 17 ballots and marking the rest with muddy paws. In Florida, a parrot named Derek secured 40% of the vote by squawking, "Tax cuts."
Election observer Martha Dingleberry. The Milwaukee polling station is being run by 3 cats in a trench coat. They're doing a surprisingly good job.
Date 1995.
A knife-wielding maniac attempted to enter the Canadian Prime Minister's residence today, only to be thwarted by a door. The assailant, described as stabby, breached multiple security layers before being stopped by this revolutionary device.
Mrs. Chrétien, displaying impressive reflexes, used the turn the key maneuver, leaving the would-be assassin locked out and bewildered.
The RCMP admitted their $0.14 million security system was less effective than a $0.42 door from Canadian Tire. "We were so focused on high-tech," said one officer. "We forgot about basic carpentry."
Little news bang. The tossed salad of truth, diced with integrity and garnished with reality.
And now for a look at tomorrow's weather. Here's Shakanaka Giles.
Down south tonight, it's colder than a penguin's pedicure. Wrap up warm, or you'll be frozen stiffer than a week-old haddock. Up north, a gale force, hoolies blowing in. Trees will be tangoing, chimney pots will be diving, and sheep might take flight. Hold on to your hats, folks. The Midlands, a meteorological mixed grill. Sunshine, showers, hail is Mother Nature's kitchen sink drama. Pack a brolly, a sun hat, and a hard hat. And finally, remember the 5th of November. Fireworks tonight. Find a good spot, wrap up warm, and watch those rockets whiz and bang. But be careful with those sparklers, and that's the weather.
(13) 1943.
And on this day, in 1943, the Vatican experienced what can only be described as the most ecclesiastical bombing in recorded history. 4 bombs of uncertain origin descended upon God's own city-state, causing considerable damage to various holy installations, including the Vatican's radio station, which was, at the time, broadcasting what we believe to be a rather spirited rendition of "Nearer, My God, to Thee." The perpetrators remain unknown to this day, though experts suggest it might have been someone who really didn't like churches. For more on this unprecedented aerial assault on the papal premises, we cross live to our war correspondent, Brian Bastable.
This is Brian Bastable reporting live from Vatican City, where the sky has just cracked open like an ecclesiastical egg and scattered its deadly contents across God's own front garden. The bombs, 4 of them, dropping with all the subtlety of a drunk cardinal at midnight mass, have just devastated several key installations. I'm ducking now as pieces of priceless mosaic whistle past my head like angry ceramic wasps. The Swiss guards are running about in their colorful uniforms, which I must say make excellent targets. One of them has just been blown clean out of his striped pantaloons. The Vatican Radio station is in flames. The last broadcast was, rather ironically, and now for the weather. Well, it's raining fire and brimstone now, ladies and gentlemen. Explosion. Sorry, that was a cherub's head that nearly took my ear off. The mysterious aircraft responsible for this unholy mess has disappeared into the clouds like Pontius Pilate washing his hands of the whole affair. The Pope himself is being rushed to safety, though I'm told he insisted on blessing the bombs as they fell. From my position behind what's left of a 15th century baptismal font, I can see the governorate palace has taken a direct hit. The diplomatic papers are floating down like confetti at a satanic wedding. This is Brian Bastable, Newsbang, ducking for cover in the eternal city, which suddenly feels somewhat less eternal.
Date 1995.
Breaking news from our Canadian desk. An attempted assassination that reads more like a Monty Python sketch has unfolded at 24 Sussex Drive. A knife-wielding intruder managed to penetrate the Prime Minister's residence, only to be thwarted by what sources describe as a particularly sturdy bedroom door and the quick thinking of Madame Chrétien. The would-be assassin, apparently confused by the layout of the building, spent several minutes wandering the corridors before being apprehended by authorities who, we understand, were enjoying a rather nice cup of tea at the time. For more on this extraordinary tale of incompetence meets interior design, we go to our crime correspondent, Ken Schitt.
Blimey, Martin, breaking tonight from Ottawa, where a knife-wielding nutter thought he'd play slice and dice with the Canadian PM, but got a proper schooling from the Iron Lady of 24 Sussex Drive. Andre Dallaire, a right muppet with murder on his mind, slithered past security like a greased weasel, armed with enough steel to make a butcher blush. But he didn't count on Aline Chrétien, the PM's better half, who turned their bedroom into a bloody fortress faster than you can say, "Bob's your uncle." While most of us were having a kip, this twisted blighter was creeping through the corridors of power like a budget Bond villain. But Madame Chrétien, decked out in nothing but a nightie and nerves of steel, clocked the intruder and slammed that bedroom door shut tighter than a Scotsman's wallet. The Mounties finally showed up to nick this wasted space, but the real hero was already having her morning cuppa. Aline Chrétien, you absolute legend. You've shown us that sometimes the best man for the job is a bird in her gym jams. This is Ken Schitt, reminding you that in Canada, even the first ladies are hard as nails. Back to you in the studio, Martin.
1916.
A rather spirited disagreement between law enforcement and Labour activists has resulted in what witnesses describe as an absolute hullabaloo at the Everett docks. The industrial workers of the world, or Wobblies as they're affectionately known, attempted to demonstrate their right to speak freely by speaking rather loudly indeed. Sheriff McRae responded by demonstrating his right to shoot freely. 7 dead, 20 wounded, and the Pacific Northwest Labour movement will never be the same. For more on this historical fracas, we cross live via our time telephone to political correspondent Hardeman Pesto, Who's standing by in 1916?
I'm here with noted Labour historian Professor Millicent Splinters, and we're watching events unfold at the dockside. Quite a crowd gathering, Martin.
Actually, the situation is extremely volatile. The sheriff has deputised nearly 200 citizens.
Yes, they're all wearing lovely badges. Quite festive, really.
Pesto, are you suggesting this is some sort of carnival?
Well, there are boats coming in, Martin. People waving. Though I must say the welcome committee looks a bit stern.
Those are armed vigilantes, Mr. Pesto. They're preparing to...
Oh, goodness, someone started the fireworks early.
Pesto, those aren't fireworks. That's gunfire. Are you actually at the docks?
Well, technically I'm viewing from the comfort of Millicent's office at the...
So you're not actually witnessing this historic confrontation?
I can see smoke. Definitely smoke and splashing. Lots of splashing.
Those are people jumping into the freezing water to escape the bullets.
Having a lovely swim, yes. Though November's a bit chilly for it.
Pesto, 7 people are dead. This is a massacre, not a day at the beach.
Well, when you put it that way, Martin, I suppose the mood is a touch somber.
This is outrageous. This was a defining moment in Labour history.
Thank you, Professor. Pesto, next time try reporting from somewhere where you can actually see what's happening, and preferably not from behind a desk.
Now, news bang, drinking from the fountain of fact, slinging dirt in the face of fiction. Is it in 1605?
And now for our science segment, where Calamity Prendeville explores how 17th century anti-terrorism technology changed British history forever.
Good evening, science lovers. On this day in 1605, British innovation in basement security systems led to the capture of notorious explosives enthusiast Guy Fawkes. Using cutting-edge Tudor detection technology, specifically the Westminster Mark I gunpowder detection system, developed by Sir Francis Bacon's lesser-known cousin Derek, guards discovered Fawkes lurking in Parliament's cellars.
The would-be bomber had assembled an impressive array of 36 barrels of gunpowder, connected by what historians now recognise as an early prototype of the BBC Micro. This primitive computer system was designed to detonate the explosives during King James I's speech about agricultural reform and beard maintenance.
Fawkes, who called himself John Johnson, displaying the same level of creativity as modern computer passwords like password 23, was found with a prototype digital watch, 3 matches, a revolutionary new technology at the time, and what appeared to be Britain's first ever to-do list reading 1, blow up Parliament 2, buy milk.
The discovery was made possible by Lord Monteagle's groundbreaking letter-reading algorithm, a predecessor to modern email spam filters, which detected suspicious phrases like terrible blow and shall receive a terrible blast.
Today, the Houses of Parliament continue to use an updated version of the original detection system, though it now runs on Windows 95. This is Calamity Prendeville, reminding you that British innovation has been preventing political explosions for over 400 years. Back to the studio.
News bang. Not just a breaking story, but a nose-breaking statement. 1556, Sadine.
And now, turning to our historical segment of the day. On this very day in 1556, well, absolutely nothing of note happened, which is in itself quite remarkable. Our religious affairs correspondent, Pastor Kevin Monstrance, joins us now to explain the theological significance of complete historical inactivity. Pastor Kevin?
Thank you. And might I say what an absolute pleasure it is to be here tonight, despite our dear producer's rather aggressive stage directions. Did you see him just now? Waving those papers about like a demented windmill. Reminds me of the time he tried to direct traffic outside Broadcasting House. 3 buses, 2 taxis, and a man on a penny farthing all ended up in the Thames. Still, mustn't grumble. Speaking of battles, I was reading about this tremendous dust-up that happened in India back in 1556. Now, before I tell you about that, I should mention that this reminds me of something that happened to my Uncle Gerald. He was a great military enthusiast, you see, used to dress up as Napoleon and march around Sainsbury's car park giving orders to the shopping trolleys. But back to India. There was this chap called Akbar, not to be confused with our producer's cat of the same name, though both were equally fond of territorial conquest and raw fish. Anyway, Akbar was leading his Mughal forces against this other fellow named Hemu. Now Hemu, despite having a name that sounds like someone clearing their throat, was actually quite the impressive character. He'd risen from humble beginnings as a shopkeeper to become the Hindu emperor of North India. Which reminds me of this merchant I knew in Bangalore. He had a parrot that could speak 3 languages, but only used them to insult customers. The parrot would say, "Your turban is crooked" in Hindi, "Your moustache looks false" in Urdu, and "Your mother rides a 3-legged camel" in English. The merchant tried to teach it something more polite, but the parrot just added "please" at the end of each insult. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, the Battle of Panipat. Picture the scene. 2 massive armies facing each other across the plains. Elephants trumpeting, horses neighing, soldiers wondering if they'd remembered to turn off the gas before leaving home. The battle was fierce, with arrows flying everywhere, rather like our producer's paperclips when he's in one of his moods. Poor old Hemu was doing quite well until he took an arrow in the eye. Bit of a setback, that. Rather like the time our producer tried to demonstrate his yoga skills during the morning meeting and got stuck in the downward-facing dog position. We had to conduct the entire meeting with him upside down, bottom in the air, face growing redder by the minute. But here's the thing about Hemu. Even with an arrow in his eye, he kept fighting until he finally collapsed. They brought him before Emperor Akbar, who was apparently quite impressed. "I say," said Akbar, I'm paraphrasing here, "that's quite impressive fighting with an arrow in your eye. How did you manage it?" And Hemu replied, "Well, I always wanted to be a soldier, but my mother wanted me to be an optician. I suppose you could say I finally saw things her way." No. Well, that's what comes of getting your historical jokes from the producer's personal collection. The man thinks 1066 and all that is a dating manual.
And finally, a quick look at tomorrow's papers. The Times. New man takes over in South Vietnam after president's sudden exit. The Washington Post lead with "Nuclear reactor makes plutonium in Washington." The Telegraph go with "King Henry's Forest Charter a hit with commoners." There's a drawing there of a royal seal. While the Mirror have minister fined for parking on a double yellow. That's the 3rd time this month. And the Sun. Granny ripped my trouser leg, claims diplomat. That's all for tonight. Due to a special event, tomorrow's news bang will be replaced by a live broadcast of the Kamchatka Glee Club singing folk songs of East Anglia. Now that's what I call an event. Good night.
Tune in next time for more artificially intelligent hilarity. News Bang is a comedy show written and recorded by AI. All voices impersonated. Nothing here is real. Good night.